Hello, ladies. I am so excited to be here. I do not underestimate the privilege it is to spend this time with you talking about the I in healing and leading in America. I am Barbara Swinney, your life and holistic leadership coach, inspiring transformational thinking, living, and leading. After all, the very essence of holistic leadership is self-leadership. You cannot lead others effectively without first leading yourself. You cannot lead yourself until you know yourself. And you cannot know yourself until you can be yourself. There are so many things going on in the world. I mean, literally, if you're anything like me, you feel like 2020 took the gloves off. At the top of the year, we lost a legend, Kobe Bryant and his beautiful daughter. Before we could even wrap our minds around that loss, we would have to face the loss of more than 120,000 lives to COVID-19. In the middle of a pandemic, George Floyd and Derek Chauvin would send us full throttle into what feels like a mass awakening. Every time I get a chance to speak to women, I always find myself thinking about what is it that I can talk to them about that will move them from A to B in their thinking. The very reason that we are having some of the issues in the United States that we're having is because we see ourselves as separate from each other. When I started my own journey of healing and wholeness, I kept bumping into myself. I kept running into Barbara, but I did not recognize her because she looked like you. Because what I've learned is we're all just reflections of each other, compartmentalized in different skin tones, different eye color, sometimes other people's hair and lashes, but we're all just one spirit. And if we can see ourselves connected as such, then we can solve the problems of the world. Ladies, you're America's hope. You are the healers of the world. I'm gonna say we, because I wanna be included in the number. We are the healers of the world. Bob Quinn, who's the author of Deep Change and Positive Organizations, said that pressure for change may come from the outside world, but it is truly an inside-out process. Change is an inside-out process, and it starts from the bottom up, and it starts at the individual level. So the change that we need to see in America, the change that we need to see in our organizations, the change that we need to see in our families, the change that we need to see in our circle of influence must start at the individual level, which is inside of us. And healing is not a one and done deal. You have to heal yourself over and over and over and over again. There are always disappointments. There are always things that you have to wrap your mind around. And a lot of times the healing has to take place in our minds. We're going to talk about the 4 things that you need to do to begin the healing process so that you can lead the healing process for other people and begin to affect your workplace, to begin to affect your family or wherever it is that you are leading. Because remember, leadership is not a position. You cannot put a tiara on somebody's head and call her a queen. Leadership resides in each of us. That's why we need to pursue healing so we can fix ourselves, because you can't see the change that you want to see outside until you reconcile it inside. When I started this journey, I used to say that, all of us are crazy on some level. If you see somebody, you don't ask them, you don't try to figure out if they're crazy. You ask yourself, what kind of crazy are they? And can I deal with their level of crazy? When you understand your own crazy, it gives you compassion for other people's crazy. I cannot tell my leadership story without starting with my family. because that's where the BS started. Don't look at me like that. All of you started with BS. Your BS is your belief system. Thank you. Get back over here with me. Get out of the gutter. Your belief system. The things that were planted in you or embedded in you when you were 2, 3, 4, and you're living it out today. You see, there are no private thoughts. All of your thoughts are played out in your behavior, and they show up where you show up. I'm the youngest of 10 children. Yes, I'm the youngest of 10 children. I had a loving family. I had parents who loved me. I had 9 siblings who all thought that they were my parents. I had my own little entourage, and it was all about the baby. Look at the baby. The baby graduated from high school. Yay! The baby got a promotion. Yay! The baby got her doctorate. Yay! They told me that I can do and be whatever I wanted to be. But what happened in me was I became addicted to the yays. I became addicted to the praise. I became addicted to the external validation that I felt like I needed from other people. This belief system carried over with me to my first executive position, which would be the CEO, the principal of an elementary school. My very first principal position was at an all-white school. Literally, I was the only Black adult in the building. So naturally, and I don't know if I said that, I was the youngest of 10 and I grew up in Mississippi. So the little Black girl from Mississippi goes to be the principal, the CEO of this business called School of All White People. Here's the deal. The white people were not my problem. It was my BS. And even though my family did not teach me that I was less than white people, somewhere along the way, I picked up the signals that white people were better than me. Because I was so excited to get that position, because if you got a position with the white people, then you must be okay. Somewhere that had been embedded in my subconscious mind. And it was being played out as I went into that school and met the staff and met the community. I also found myself very insecure and intimidated by people that I thought had status in the community. So if you were a lawyer or you were a doctor and you came to me acting in your role as parent, I felt intimidated, because on top of the belief system that I had about being Black, that I had about being a different color, because we're all just one race, I had to deal with the insecurity or the impact of the belief system that education was not esteemed as highly as somebody as a doctor or a lawyer. Because in my family and in the Black community, if you were a doctor or a lawyer, you really had made it. In education, you were just expected to be the lowly educator. I'm here to serve. My name is Barbara Swinney, and I am here to serve. No, I am a professional in this field, just as they are professionals in their field. So I had to heal that mindset and tell myself or teach myself that I am worthy, that I am just as much as everybody else. So that was a part of the healing that I had to do. Then I went on to be an assistant superintendent, where I was the leader of leaders. Now, this was a mixed group, didn't have anything to do with race or racism or anything like that, but I still had a certain picture of how things should look. Being in that position gave me status and power. So again, I started to believe that I was better than other people. You see, sometimes the oppressed becomes the oppressor. That's why you have to heal the negative thought patterns that are embedded in your very DNA. Well, in 2016, I started to get the answers. I call 2016 the year of my pandemic, the year of my crisis. Because you see, a crisis is only something that you don't have control over. It's when things are out of control and you can't fix them. That's what a crisis is. 2016, in 6 months, I had a major shift in my career, a major involuntary shift in my career. 3 months after I found out that I was going to start this shift in my career, I found out that my husband was engaged in some long-term infidelity, so my marriage was in trouble. So in 6 months, the last 6 months of 2016, I had a major shift in my career, got a divorce, sent my first child off to college, bought a house, sold a house, settled into the single mom lifestyle, and started a life coaching business. Because, like Bob Quinn told us earlier, the pressure to change may come from the outside world, but it truly is an inside-out job. Starts from the bottom up and at the individual level. I had to do what I needed to do to ensure that Barbara will continue to go on and be prosperous. I was in the middle of an identity crisis, and I started asking the tough questions. What is it that I want? Why am I here? Why was I sent to this earth? Miles Monroe says, you don't start believing until you start doubting. That struck me because you don't start believing until you start doubting. That means if you don't start doubting what's embedded in your belief system, if you don't start doubting, why am I feeling that way when the black man walks in the room? Or why do I feel like white people are better than me? Or not? Whatever it is that you're thinking that may be contrary to your personal growth and development, don't be afraid to question it. It's time to start questioning those things. And we're going to talk about the 4 things to start your healing. Number 1, you have got to take full responsibility, 100% responsibility for where you are. I had to take responsibility for where I was in my marriage, for where I was in my career. I was the one who gave up my power. I was the one who ignored signs of emotional infidelity. I was the one who allowed all of the people in my career to tell me which direction to go and why. That was me. I had to take responsibility for that. And then after I realized that, oh my gosh, I have a part in this, then I had to regain custody of myself. I had to take control of my life again. And number 3, probably the hardest thing that I ever had to do was I had to forgive. I had to forgive everybody for everything. I had to forgive everybody for everything. Everything that they did, everything that they do, and everything that they are going to do. And the last point is share your story. This alabaster box could have been opened for me 20 years ago if somebody had simply shared my story. When I started sharing my story, started talking to people about what I was going through, suddenly it was, oh, I was married for 20 years too and went through a divorce. Well, why didn't you tell me? So I didn't feel like a loner and have to go through this myself. So on this road to healing, I went looking for myself, but I found a leader. Because what started happening after I started digging into me and finding me was things around me started to get better. The culture and climate at my school got better. I went from 2 stars, 2 out of 5 stars, to 4 out of 5 stars in the climate rating. We decreased the turnover rate 100%. We were averaging a higher rate of about 30 teachers per year. In 4 years, we went from 30 teachers a year to 0 leaving, 0 teachers choosing to leave. Everything that you do inside of you, you have to do for your organization. Everything that you want to have changed outside of you, you have to change it inside yourself first. If you want to continue to grow and learn, you have to continue to examine your practices, examine your behaviors, examine your thoughts. Because ultimately, like Rick Warren says in his book, this is not about you, honey. I know we like for things to be about us, but this, the big picture, is not about you. It's all about you, and is so much bigger. If you are going to pursue leadership, pursue self-leadership, because dear, you are the I in healing and leading. I'm Dr. Barbara Swinney, your life and holistic leadership coach, inspiring transformational thinking, living, and leading. Thank you so much for spending this time with me this afternoon or today. Thank you. Bye-bye.